who was the president of the Homeowners Association. He was yelling and gesturing wildly at a group of people gathered in front of a house. Sarah got up from her porch and walked over to see what was going on. As she approached, she heard Mr. Smith saying, "I told you you can't park that RV in your driveway. It's against the neighborhood rules." The group of people were a family who had recently moved into the neighborhood. They explained that they were planning on taking a road trip and needed to park the RV in their driveway while they made preparations. Mr. Smith wasn't having any of it. "Rules are rules," he said firmly. "If you can't follow them, you can't live in this neighborhood." Sarah could see the frustration and disappointment on the family's faces, and she knew she had to do something to help. That's when she had an idea. She turned to Mr. Smith and said, "I have a solution that may help everyone here." Mr. Smith looked skeptical, but he was willing to hear her out. Sarah went back to her house and returned with her dog, a border collie named Bella. Bella was a genius dog. She had been trained in various ways to help her owner in different situations. Sarah explained that Bella had been trained to read and understand the neighborhood's rules and regulations. Sarah handed Bella a copy of the neighborhood's rulebook, and the dog immediately began flipping through the pages, her eyes scanning the text. After a few minutes, Bella looked up and barked twice. "What does she mean?" asked Mr. Smith. Sarah explained that Bella had found the section of the rulebook that pertained to parking RVs in driveways. The rule stated that RVs could be parked in driveways for a maximum of 72 hours. The family was overjoyed, and Mr. Smith was flabbergasted. He apologized to the family and thanked Sarah and Bella for their help. The family was able to park the RV in their driveway while they made preparations for their road trip. After that day, Mr. Smith and the other members of the HOA started to rely on Bella's knowledge to settle neighborhood disputes. Sarah and Bella were happy to help, and the neighborhood was a more peaceful place because of them. Okay, so I'm sure dogs understand more than we actually think they do, but there's no dog out there that's reading a book on HOA rules. That's stretching it a little bit. I'd say the AI did a great job of incorporating a dog into the story, however, not believable at all. Our next prompt comes to us from Mr. Moose6619, a longtime subscriber of the channel. It says, "Story about outdoor holiday blow-up decorations coming alive." Let's jump right in. It was the night before Christmas, and the neighborhood was aglow with festive decorations. Everywhere you looked, there were twinkling lights, sparkling ornaments, and colorful displays. But one house stood out from the rest. It was the house of the Smiths, who had just recently moved in and had gone all out with their Christmas decorations. Their front yard was covered in inflatable Christmas decorations. There was a giant Santa Claus, a snowman, a gingerbread man, and even a reindeer. As the Smiths sat inside admiring their handiwork, they heard a strange noise coming from outside. They went to investigate, but they couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. As the night went on, the noise grew louder and more persistent. The Smiths were starting to get worried. Suddenly, the inflatable decorations started to move and shake. The Santa Claus began to inflate and deflate. The snowman's arms started to wave, and the gingerbread man's legs started to kick. The Smiths were in shock. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. They quickly realized that their inflatable decorations had come to life. They ran back into their house and locked the doors, not knowing what to do. Outside, the inflatable decorations continued to move and dance. The reindeer pranced around the yard, the snowman sang carols, and the gingerbread man even started to make cookies. The neighborhood was alive with excitement and wonder. As the night went on, the decorations continued to entertain the neighborhood, and the Smiths couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and joy at the sight. They realized that they had created something truly magical. In the morning, the inflatable decorations deflated back to their original form, and the Smiths thought that it was just a dream. But the neighbors had seen it too, and the news of the incident spread quickly around the neighborhood. From then on, the Smiths' house was known as the one with the magical Christmas decorations. And every year, people would come from all over to see the inflatable decorations come to life on Christmas Eve. The Smiths had never imagined that their love for Christmas decorations would bring so much joy to their neighborhood, and it had become a yearly tradition that everyone looked forward to. Yep, I can see why they ran inside on that one because that's just not natural. If the Christmas decorations are coming to life, I'm getting something to rip them open with. Just think about the implications from this in a real society though. If this was something that happened, this house would be cordoned off completely by military and they would be the only ones allowed in or out to see what was happening and research it and find out all they could about it. There would definitely be no neighborhood viewings. Our next prompt comes to us from Ricardo Berrigan 8258. Story about a dinosaur's last moments before the asteroid hit the Earth. Let's jump right in. The sun was shining bright in the clear blue sky, and the lush green landscape stretched out as far as the eye could see. The dinosaurs roamed free, enjoying the warmth and beauty of the day. Among them was a massive T-Rex, who was considered the king of the dinosaurs. He was fierce and powerful, and all the other dinosaurs gave him a wide berth. But something was off. The T-Rex could feel it. The air was thick with an eerie silence, and the ground seemed to be vibrating, as if something was coming. He could sense that something was coming, something big. The T-Rex raised his head and let out a mighty roar, trying to warn the others of the impending danger. But they paid him no heed. They were too busy going about their day. The T-Rex knew he had to act fast. He had to protect his family and his herd. He ran toward his mate and their young, herding them towards the safety of a nearby cave. As they reached the cave, the T-Rex could see a massive asteroid hurtling towards the Earth. He knew that this was the end. The asteroid was going to hit the Earth, and it would mean the extinction of all dinosaurs. The T-Rex let out a final roar as the asteroid hit the Earth and the ground shook violently. The sky turned dark, and a massive wave of fire and ash engulfed everything in its path. The T-Rex held his family close, shielding them from the destruction. As the asteroid's impact killed the dinosaurs, he thought about how the world had changed, how it was now a vastly different place from the one he had known. But in his last moments, he was at peace, knowing that he had protected his family and herd until the very end. The asteroid hit the Earth, and the dinosaurs were no more. But the memory of the T-Rex, the fierce protector of his family, would live on forever in the fossilized remains that would be found millions of years later. Does anyone else feel like the AI read a couple of textbooks and then came up with a story that was completely, lame? I think this one would have been more interesting if it was a story that came from first person, like inside the T-Rex's head, and not third person looking at the story from the outside. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys think down below. Our next prompt comes to us from Jody, who has been a very long time subscriber on the channel and a very prolific commenter too. Their prompt is, a minstrel that plays the lute is time warped into the present day and learns to drive a sports car from an anthropomorphic fox. They have a minor collision involving a taxi cab and a stray basketball. Hijinks ensue until they all agree to have a dance competition at a Hawaiian-themed pub to decide who pays for the damages. Let's jump right in. It was a typical morning in the present day when suddenly a strange thing happened. A minstrel, dressed in medieval clothing and playing his lute, appeared out of nowhere in the middle of a busy street. The minstrel, named Harold, was confused and disoriented. He had no idea where he was or how he had gotten there. Just then, an anthropomorphic fox wearing sunglasses named Felix pulled up in a sleek sports car. He was a car enthusiast, and he noticed Harold immediately. He introduced himself and offered to help Harold navigate this strange new world. Harold was hesitant at first, but he was grateful for the help. Felix taught him how to drive the sports car, and they set off on an adventure together. As they were driving, they had a minor collision with a taxi cab and a stray basketball that had rolled into the street. Harold and Felix were fine, but the taxi cab was damaged. The driver of the taxi cab, a turtle named Tom, was furious and demanded that they pay for the damages. Harold and Felix didn't have the money to pay for the damages, and they didn't want to get into any legal trouble. So they came up with a plan to settle the dispute in a fun and friendly way. They suggested a dance competition at a Hawaiian-themed pub to decide who would pay for the damages. Tom was hesitant at first, but he agreed to the competition. They all headed to the pub where they found a lively crowd ready to watch the competition. Harold played his lute and sang a medieval ballad, while Felix performed